And welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important IU basketball stories from the past 7 days. This is our 102nd edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 448th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of Thursday, November 29th, 2018. I am your host, Jerod Morris. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud Banner Moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes the shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment occurred before the Duke game even started, when we saw social media clips of Devontae Green and Zach McRoberts going through Indiana's shoot-around, suggesting they would be ready to play in Tuesday night's game. And they did. Devontae played 20 minutes, while Zach played 16. We also saw Deron Davis look confident, assertive, and relatively nimble. He was one of the lone bright spots for Indiana, scoring 10 points and grabbing 4 boards. So it appears that finally, mercifully, Indiana is starting to get healthier, knock on wood. And if everyone currently in the lineup can stay in the lineup moving forward, then Indiana can finally get back to having regular rotations and start building some much-needed on-court chemistry. Granted, Jerome Hunter may not play all season, and we have no timetable for Race Thompson's return from a concussion, so 2 guys projected to be in Indiana's regular rotation aren't currently having an impact. But even without those 2, and despite the Hoosiers' porous play over the last 4 games, the current roster of available players is still good enough to make the NCAA tournament and to be a factor in a loaded Big Ten. They just need some more time together to gel, clearly. And while you can call it making excuses if you wish, the fact of the matter is that all the early season injuries have absolutely had an impact on this team's inconsistency. How could they not? But all that matters now is what the team does moving forward with more of its parts and pieces back in place, and we'll start to find out on Saturday. All right, now let me introduce my esteemed co-host for this week's show. To my left, he is the legendary girls' U sports coach in Cincinnati, known for inspiring his players by saying yo a lot in practice and awkwardly tossing his jacket during the second halves of blowouts. He's the president emeritus of the Robert Johnson Fan Club, and he is one of the world's most respected bracketologists.
It's not Joe Lenardi. It's not Jerry Palm. It is Andy Bottoms from over at Assembly Call.
He is Andy Bottoms. Andy, what is your Bottoms line from the last week in IU basketball?
Well, I've definitely spent the last 48 hours trying to choreograph any kind of jacket throwing in my daughter's upcoming game this weekend. So definitely look forward to breaking that out on Sunday. It's kind of good timing for the radio show. I think we've had a couple days to, digest the way the game went against Duke. Think a little bof more about what it means. And, it's one of the great things about doing the postgame show immediately after. It's also one of the challenging things about it to really, kind of process everything quickly. So I think it'll be, well, we certainly won't rehash everything tonight. I think it'll be good to look back at a few elements of it. And I guess I kind of come down maybe still disappointed in the way that the team played and got rattled so early. On the flip side, you kind of look at that environment, what it does to just about everybody. And you look at how young IU is at some pretty key spots and how much they're relying on guys who are either in their first year of college basketball period or their first year with the program. And so it maybe is a little more explainable, not necessarily less frustrating. So all that really matters is how they respond in these next few games coming up. I know I said before, things don't get any easier. Obviously things get easier than playing at arguably the number 1 team in the country at their place. But, just in terms of being able to get a breather, this team doesn't really have the luxury of having one. They're thrown right back into the fire, which might really be a good thing. And so I think we'll, as we talk about these next 4 games, I think we'll learn as much, if not more, about where this team might eventually finish in that 4-game stretch than we probably did on Tuesday night.
And to my right, he is a columnist for The Big Lead and a co-host for The Hangover, and he is the man who came up with the most apt metaphor in history for a team getting its doors blown off at Cameron.
Sometimes you are just walking into a bear's mouth.
He is Ryan Phillips. Ryan, what is your rant this week?
I'm really shocked that is caught on has been as hot as it has been on social media.
That one's going to linger with the show for a while, I think.
I'm good with it.
I am too. It's a good one.
Could have gone with crocodile, could have gone with alligator, but decided to go with bear. It's wintry. I
As if that was the only problem with it, that literally walking into an animal's mouth was the premise. But it was really, but I like that you got hung up on which specific animal you
Yeah,
picked.
of course. Why? What else would you be considering? No, I think that I think in hindsight, this Duke game, one thing that I think that we don't really understand. A lot of people are like, "Well, Indiana has freshmen and Duke has freshmen," but it's not the same because those Duke freshmen are all in the top 5 in their class. Those guys have played internationally. They've been playing against the top competition. They've been playing against NBA guys in the summer. They've been playing. Those guys are on a higher level than the top 100 guys that Indiana gets because they've played tougher competition for a long time. They've played in bigger games. I mean, when you're playing with Team USA basketball, you're playing in bigger games around the world in harder circumstances. A lot of IU's young guys, that was their first exposure to a big road atmosphere that you're not comfortable with. And they played like it. And I think that there's expectations moving forward that things will get better, but it's just hard to match up with against a group of guys who have been in those situations consistently for a long time. They even just went out to Maui, which I would consider a big time atmosphere against two top 10 teams. Duke has been tested, and those guys have been tested despite being freshmen. And I think a lot of IU's freshmen have not really been tested yet on the same level. So I think that's something worth considering a few days out from that Duke game. Obviously, the focus now is Big Ten. You got to win these next 2 games. I think that you're looking at Louisville and you're looking at Butler down the road, and you're saying, okay, we want to pick up one of these non-conference wins. But right now, let's focus on getting to 2-0 in the Big Ten. That is the big test right now for Indiana, is to bounce back from that beating and weather 2 Big Ten games in a few days, get off to that 2-0 start that you really want to have in conference before you sort of take a break against non-conference teams and then come back against Illinois the first week of January. So really the focus now has to be shifting the Big Ten ball and attacking these first 2 games and really trying to get started in conference on the right foot.
All right, here's what we're going to talk about this week, the huge upcoming stretch of 4 games for Indiana. We'll talk about why Justin Smith hasn't broken out yet, this big breakout season. Why hasn't it materialized after 7 games? We'll analyze that. We'll do an expectation check with November in the books, and then we will answer your questions. All of that coming this week on Assembly Call Radio. But first, let's talk real quick about mattresses, because Assembly Call Radio now has a presenting sponsor that is all about mattresses. They're based in Indianapolis, run by IU grads and fans. Seriously, their CMO, Nathan, is actually a member of our new private IU basketball community, and they have over 65 years of experience in crafting top-quality mattresses. It's Comfort Option, where they give you 2 incredible options. First, if you live in or around Indianapolis or Bloomington, you can take advantage of their revolutionary mattress store to your door service. Comfort Option will literally bring the mattress store to your home and custom design a mattress for you right there on the spot based on your preferences. It's a truly unique service, like the Zion Williamson of mattress services. And if you live outside Indy or Bloomington, you can still go to comfortoption.com and order their highly reviewed Alpha mattress, which they produce in-house and ship direct anywhere in the U.S. So basically, you cut out the middleman, save money, and sleep better. Which all sounds great, right? But now get this. Comfort Option's parent company, Foamcraft, has season tickets to Pacers games, and the seats are incredible. Floor level, and as Nathan described them to me, quote, you can literally hear the trash talk. Well, they are giving us 4 tickets to the upcoming Pacers-Hornets game on Sunday, January 20th to use for a contest. So if you want to see Victor and Cody play, all you have to do is order a mattress from Comfort Option between now and Friday, December 14th, and use the promo code ASSEMBLY when you check out, either online if you're ordering the Alpha or in person with the rep who brings the mattress store to your door. Not only will you get $50 off your purchase, but you'll be entered into the drawing for the tickets. On December 15th, we'll pick 2 winners, each of whom will get 2 tickets, and then we'll send them to you immediately so you can use them as Christmas gifts. Pretty awesome, right? So again, go to comfortoption.com, order your Alpha mattress, or schedule your in-home mattress store service, and then use the promo code ASSEMBLY to get $50 off your purchase and be entered into the drawing for the Pacers-Hornets tickets.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So, gentlemen, let's talk about this big stretch of upcoming games. Indiana plays at home Saturday against Northwestern, currently ranked number 47 in KenPom. Then they're at number 37 Penn State, home to number 51 Louisville, and then on the neutral court against number 25 Butler.
What's IU's KenPom ranking right now? I haven't checked.
It was 23 earlier today. It actually dropped all the way to 26 after the Duke game, and we've steadily risen as other results have come in.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it since the Duke game.
So Let me start this conversation this way. What is reasonable to expect for this 4-game stretch, Andy, as you look at it? I mean, obviously 4-0 is what we all want. What do you think is a fair expectation?
You'd like to be 3-0 or 3-1. I think. I don't know. It's hard to say what's reasonable. I think if you ask how much that's changed over the past few games is maybe as interesting as anything. I certainly think this team needs to win the home games. So that would give you 2, and then try to take one of the ones that are away from home. The importance on that Butler game and the Louisville game to a certain extent has really increased given the couple road losses again to Duke, not unexpected, but also losing at Arkansas. Butler game becomes pretty important. It'd be a non-conference win away from home. And Penn State, they played their best game of the season to beat Virginia Tech, but kind of tried to give that game away toward the end and benefited a lot from having a pretty big size advantage on a small Virginia Tech team. So I think 3-1 feels reasonable. I think 2-2 is maybe a minimum. But I think for people to, be able to kind of start to move past the Duke game and get some of that bad taste out of their mouth, I think 3-1 would be a good place to be.
Ryan, we got this question from Walt. He asked us, how do you define success over the next 4 games? Record, statistics, and subjective eye test. Like, how are you going to kind of – because I know you've said you're not really going to judge this team until late December, January, but how will you assess what occurs in these 4 games? Is it just bottom line, get some wins, or is there other stuff you're going to look for?
Well, I think you got to play better. I mean, you just got to show that, not show up like UT Arlington and UC Davis where you get a lead and relax or fall behind and have to make a great comeback, or like they did against Arkansas where they were turning the ball over. I mean, you can't do that and expect to win down the road. So I want to see them play better. Obviously, you want to get the wins. But again, if you lose a couple games early in the season, you can easily bounce back and play great down the stretch and get into the NCAA tournament and get a decent seed. Obviously, you want to beat Northwestern on Saturday. Obviously, you want to win at Penn State and show, that you've got some mettle to win on the road because they haven't done that yet. But I think that you want to go 3-1. I think Andy's right. You want to go at least 3-1. But you want to play better, and you just want to see the team. And I guess it's the eye test, and it's subjective to a degree. But you just want to see it look like the team is on the same page moving forward, and more so every game. I get it if in one game, if in the Northwestern game it still looks a little disjointed. Then the Penn State game, I want to see them look a little more together. Then against Louisville, I want to see progression because those injured guys are coming back. You need to sort of start to develop that chemistry, because if you don't, then you're behind the 8 ball heading into January, because you're not really going to prove anything against, the non-conference guys you face later in December. So I just want to see over this next 4-game stretch, you're really breaking it out as a 4-game stretch. And I want to see progression for these guys and just see them look like they're on the same page offensively and defensively, which wasn't there the last week or so, the week and a half or so.
Well, and I think it's interesting if you look at that Penn State game, and this fast forwards a little bit to some of the rechecking expectations at this point in the season. But if your expectation is still that this team can finish top 4 in the Big Ten, you got to try to find a way to win some road games, and this is one of the handful that feels most winnable. So I think that game becomes really important. One, so these guys can kind of get over the hump on the road. Came really close against Arkansas. That was disappointing. Certainly wasn't the case on Tuesday in terms of being a close game, but it would be a real confidence boost for them. So I think if nothing else, you'd like to see them start to get back some of the confidence that they showed early in the season when they were just, really strong defensively, blowing people out. I don't know that any of these games will end up as blowouts, but I think the order of the games is pretty good if you think of it that way. You've got a home game to try to build a little bit back against the Northwestern team who's been decent but not great. Jumped out to a big lead against Georgia Tech in the ACC Big Ten Challenge to let them get back and have it be a close game toward the end. Then you go on the road to a game that, again, against what you think is a lower half Big Ten team, that if you're really going to challenge anywhere for those top 4 spots, you need to win. Then you've got a Butler team on a neutral court, which should have a decent number of IU fans, and then Louisville, who might be the toughest on you defensively as you go into that game and you look at how they played against Michigan State. So the order of them is not good. It kind of does allow maybe for some of that progression that Ryan talked about.
Anything else on this, Ryan? on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, just let's go out and get some wins. I mean, they need to start racking them up and putting them on the board. I think that if you looked at where you're at right now and you said, okay, they're going to lose to Duke badly and they're going to lose by 1 at Arkansas on the road before the season, if you looked at it, but they're going to beat Marquette. They're going to blow Marquette's doors off. And you looked at it right as it is now and you're like, okay, we're kind of where we need to be. One point loss at Arkansas isn't a bad one. You knew you were going to lose to Duke, but you kind of are where you wanted to be. The problem is over the last, as I said, week and a half, 2 weeks, how they've looked. It's time to start turning that around.
Yep. All righty, coming up on the assembly call, let's talk about Justin Smith, who is everyone's preseason prediction for a breakout player on the IU roster this season. The breakout isn't really happening yet. What's going on? We'll dissect it next. Stick with us here on the assembly call. All righty. Hello to everybody watching live. Great to see you all here, as always. Andy, I think something's going on with your audio. It's like automatically adjusting your levels, so it's going up and down a little bit. Do you have anything clicked where it's like automatically changing your audio levels? I didn't notice it when we did the audio test before, but it was happening there.
Not on purpose. Let me see if I can figure out where that would, where that might actually be.
1550.
Would that be
When
something?
you're actually talking into the microphone, it sounds fine. Like when you move up like that, it sounds fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe point the mic towards your face a little.
Yeah. Let me see in the Zoom preferences and audio. Okay, so look in the Zoom preferences under microphone. There's a box for automatically adjust microphone settings.
All right, I unchecked it.
There we go. Yeah, that should be better.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't change anything this time. What was there before? So maybe it was just different the other night. But
Yeah.
oh well. Okay.
All right, so hey, we are doing a chat mob induction tonight. Jen gone. She's here. She's going to be in the chat mob, so I think she's going to hop on with us after the show. She is a longtime listener, supporter. I think she's donated like every single time that we've done a donation drive, and she always does like a fun, like, here, this donation is for the number of assists Indiana had last season, or for the number of 3-pointers that Steve Alford made his senior year. Like, there's always some cool little story behind it. So I'm very excited to. I haven't seen her in the chat yet, though.
She's in.
Oh, there she is. Okay, she's in there.
Wow,
yeah, she is
really
Fresh
loud.
off her trip to the game, no less.
Yes. Wait, what happened? I got really loud.
You were like, oh, there she is.
Well, I got excited. Hey.
Oh, it's my eardrums are bleeding, but other than that,
Yeah, she's she's just like she provides a lot of positive energy as an IU fan.
I agree.
Which, at certain times we need that.
Because of work tonight, I have to hop off directly, so I don't want. I do feel bad disappointing in an AC after dark, but we can do that. I promise to carve out some time next week for one.
I was kind of looking forward to Ryan being on tonight.
Yeah, well,
Disappointing another listener.
I'm here.
No, it's just the same. It's actually just the one over and over again.
That's right.
Hey, each one counts, right?
Ryan has a fan.
I was
that
kind
time
of
we asked
just
everybody-
you. Anybody else? Nope, just you. Okay. I get it.
Remember that time you put up a poll that you totally regretted about who's your favorite on the show, and I got like 60% of the vote. It's so great.
What?
Actually,
For favorite on the show, I do not remember
This
that.
is back in the there was one like mobile app we were trying for a while, and you could put polls up during the show, and you put one up, and everybody voted for me, and I felt bad.
Did Bleacher Report retweet that?
No, guys,
Oh man.
long, bad.
All right, so we're gonna talk about Justin Smith.
Yeah, I didn't. I was just kind of thumbing through what you had.
Yeah, I mean, I may not get to all this because I'll kind of open it up so we can discuss it, and then I'll throw some of this in later. But I'm going to start out with a rant because some of the crap that he's taking is really unfair, and it's kind of ticking me off.
Okay.
So,
Hey, you're stealing rants. I like it.
yeah.
Take a little pressure off me.
I can rant like the best of them.
Okay, let's do this. Jen says she remembers a more recent poll about who we were most excited to get back: Ryan, Devontae, or McRoberts.
Yeah, I didn't hold up well in that poll.
I don't know what it would have said about Indiana fans if you had won that poll. That would or maybe it just would have said something good about the show. I don't know.
I'm just leaving it alone.
I know. All right, here we go. You are listening to the Assembly Call. You can find all of our content at our website, assemblycall.com. And if you ever want to participate in one of our unedited live broadcasts,
Chat mobbers,
or watch those replays, then check out our YouTube channel. You'll be privy to all of the between segment banter that might not make it into the radio show or podcast edit, like when Ryan updates us on his vibrant love life during segments of AC After Dark.
Yeah, I was dating a girl who was not happy because she didn't hear from me for like most of days. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, nothing." That is way too long an audio drop. I'm sorry.
Join us live at youtube.com/assemblycall. What makes it too long of an audio drop, but yet it was worthwhile to actually explain on a show?
Here's Ryan reading his short original poem. Yeah, that was a little lengthy.
I find that was a little long. I'll take that. All right, I'm Jerod Morris here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips. So, guys, let's talk about Justin Smith because, all off season we got the question. It seemed like this question came in every week. Like, who do you guys think is going to be the breakout player? And by the end of the offseason, it just became a given that we would say Justin Smith, given what he had done at the end of last season. That was kind of the template for the breakout, over his final 6 games, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 21 minutes a game. If you do that over a full season, you've got kind of that third wheel now with Juwan Morgan or Romeo Langford. So far, it's not happening. Justin's averaging 9.6 points, 3.1 boards, and 3 turnovers in about the same number of minutes, 21.3. And this, despite playing 4 teams that are 225th or lower, the efficiency numbers just haven't been that good. So we're going to dissect some reasons for why that might be. The first thing that I want to say to lead off this segment is I've seen some criticisms of Justin that have really, really ticked me off and upset me. You might have seen, on Twitter, I called somebody out and just said it was a totally despicable thing that he said. And I just think that is so uncalled for. And I think people need a reality check that, look, when a guy is struggling and he's not playing how we want him to, the first thing is probably no one feels worse about it than he does. And the second thing is, if you wouldn't say something to someone's face, or if it's just outright mean, or if it's a personal attack and not, a criticism of an action, just don't say it because there's no place for that. That's not being a supportive fan. That's being a jerk. That's being immature. And that doesn't do anything positive for the discourse about Indiana basketball. So I'm really sick and tired of it. And I just want to say that because I've seen it from too many people, and I've had people comment to me about it, even seeing it in our chat and on Twitter. So, that's not the kind of stuff that we do. That's not the kind of stuff that we condone. And I think Indiana fans should be better than that. We should be, supportive of our players, not attacking them personally. So anyway, with that out of the way, and I know that you guys agree, so you can feel free to jump in there or, but I know you agree with what I'm saying.
I'm just going to leave you on an island on this one. Keep going.
No, because if I keep going, I'm going to get even angrier, and that's not going to be good.
What I would say is I think Justin hasn't played to the standard I think he believes he can reach, and I don't think he's played to the standard that I think Archie Miller has for him or the rest of his teammates. The thing is that I think nobody's more aware of that than Justin Smith. And it's, we talked all offseason. You talked about not necessarily about a breakout, but who would be the third option, other than Romeo Langford and Juwan Morgan. I think a lot of people thought Justin Smith. I kind of believe that too. I didn't think it was a done deal because it really depended on what kind of rotations they went with. But if you look at him as a starter, then you've got to think he's the third guy. And he's certainly talented enough to do that. The key for him is to put that into practice. And one of the things he's been doing, and it tells me it's mental, is that he's been turning the ball over a lot. And those are things that he shouldn't be doing because he shouldn't be handling the ball enough, quite frankly, to turn the ball over a lot. And I think it's mental. And you look at, there are some statistics I've been looking at for this Indiana team, and he's second on the team in turnovers, averaging 2.6 a game. The only guy with more than them is Devontae Green. He's only played in 3 games, and a couple of those were up and down games where you're going to get turnovers when you're blowing a team out and running up and down the floor. What I would also say, the other stat that shocked the heck out of me was that Juwan Morgan shooting 45% from the free throw line, and it happens that he's shooting 56% from 3, but only 45% from the free throw line. Justin Smith is not the only guy who needs to mentally step up his game, and I think that that's evident with Juwan needing to up his free throw percentage. So there's just a level that Justin Smith needs to get to that he's not at right now. but let's give him a couple weeks to figure this out and figure out his role on the team and where he's going to fit in. And he's also playing on the perimeter, I think, more than he probably did last year. And so that means that he's going to have to sort of change his game a little bit to fit in. So, people can be harsh. That's seems like anytime anything goes wrong with this fan base, jumps down guys' throats. And that's just something we have to live with being Indiana fans. But I would agree that I think Justin Smith is a guy who, he needs work, but, let's give him the time to actually work on it.
We don't have to live with it passively, and I'm not
No,
going
I
to.
agree.
You say that kind of crap, I'm gonna start calling people out for it.
I agree.
It's totally uncalled for.
I said that when people were going after Tom Crean personally, not just for his coaching ability. I agreed. I think that there's no need for that to get to that direction. Criticize the guy's coaching, criticize the guy's play, but going after them and insulting them and things like that, there's no place for that anywhere in being a sports fan. I don't agree with that, and I don't think any of us do.
Andy, your kind of opening thoughts on Justin's struggles. I do think it's just trying to figure out where he fits in with this group. I think it's a little bit hard. They've really been, with all the injuries, to really figure out like what his role is, where he's going to get his baskets and things like that. And the only times over the course of the season, and I think you've got some numbers that may hit on this later, that he's looked comfortable is when he's really been able to get out and transition and do some things there, because it's really not worrying at that point about where to be on the floor and where to be in relation to Juwan and Romeo and things like that. And, last year's distribution, once you got past Juwan, was kind of flat. There really was a lot of guys who had opportunities this year. And now you've got everything very much, tilted toward Romeo and Juwan are going to get the majority of the, shots, opportunities, whatever. And I think everybody would say rightfully so, but I think it's a little bit harder for him to figure out where to pick his spots and where to take shots, and where he's going to get shots and be able to get baskets in this offense. So we talk about, the transition, we talk about, some of the cutting off the ball, and things like that. He just doesn't look comfortable in what he's being asked to do. And the way that the lineup has been constructed for the most part is, Juwan playing the 5 and Justin playing the 4. I don't know if that's the best place for him or not, but that's just kind of how it's typically been as he's been in there. And so, maybe there's some discussion to be had with that component of things, but I think I think it speaks a little bit to the talent that people see in him, that people have been disappointed. But like so many other guys, they're trying to fit a lot of new pieces together and trying to figure out. I think he's trying to find his way, and he just hasn't really found it yet. And the other thing I'll say, for some of the criticism, some of the clips of him, not hustling back hard after the one turnover. I mean, he got yanked out of the game immediately and really didn't play too much after that. So to me, people can get upset about that, and rightfully so. And it was disappointing to see. That's kind of the coach's job to handle, to police that kind of thing. And I thought Archie did it well in that scenario. Really didn't play him very much. I think he was upset with what he did in the Arkansas game, and he didn't play very much either. So at some point it's seeing how he reacts to that. But yeah, it's definitely not on fans or really any of us to kind of, police that effort and those kinds of things, or, go directly at him with comments on that kind of thing.
Ryan, did you want to say something else? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, couldn't unmute. I would say also for people, and you think that it's so funny because I hear people say like, "Oh, this doesn't matter. Nobody's paying attention." When you go attack players and you attack coaches personally, who's watching that? Your potential future coach and your potential future recruits. They don't want to go to a fan base that will attack them on Twitter if they have a bad game.
Not to mention parents and family members of the players who definitely look at stuff like that. We've had them on the show before.
That ties in. I mean, I always hear people like, "Oh, you think a recruit's going to decide because somebody attacks them on Twitter?" Absolutely. I mean, if there's enough of it, and if, after 6 months you want to fire a coach and not give him a chance to develop a program, the next coach isn't going to want to come here. He's going to want a leash to bring in his own thing. So if attacking people that way is just, it's so counterproductive for getting the program back to where it wants to be and where it needs to be. Indiana fans have a reputation nationally of being ridiculous, of being, short with a leash, of attacking players, of being too overly involved. And, I love the passion of our fan base. I do. But at the same time, you've got to dial that back with the negativity a little bit and say, yeah, I don't like the way we're playing, or maybe I don't like the way a certain player's playing, but to go after people personally, to say like pull his scholarship for not running back on defense or whatever. No, teach him how to run back on defense. That's what you should be doing. And work on him and make him a better player. Justin Smith's 19 years old. He's going to get better, and he's also going to grow up. So I would just say that fans who are that negative need to check themselves, because if you're that negative because you want the program to be better, then flashing that negativity everywhere is not the way to make the program better.
All right, so let's dig into a few numbers here real quick, just to add kind of some objective analysis to this for where he's kind of struggling and also where he's not getting opportunities that maybe he should be. So we knew there was a big emphasis on him getting better around the rim. Archie talked about that. It's not happening so far. Last year, he was 58.7% around the rim. This year, he's about 50%, and we can all run through our minds some dunk opportunities that he's missed. He's trying at times to finish with more authority around the rim. It's not happening right now. Andy, as you said, he's been at his best in transition, but those opportunities have really stalled out over the last 4 games, and that's what we've kind of seen, the struggle has really come to the fore for him. He's also very efficient. He was last year, he is this year, at turning offensive rebounds into putbacks. However, he hasn't been as active on the offensive glass this year, so he hasn't had as many of those opportunities. And what I found probably the most interesting is that his most successful offensive action last year was to be the screener in pick and roll actions. He actually had 22 possessions as a screener in ball screens. He produced 1.36 point per possession on, his rolling, slipping the screen, doing the pick and pop. That was in the 91st percentile. So far this season through 7 games, he does not have one opportunity in the pick and roll as the screener. So, I think my hypothesis about Justin, and we've talked about this before, obviously he had lots of expectations, coming in. It's not working yet. I think at times he's really trying, trying to finish emphatically around the rim. The results haven't been there. He's trying to be effective in the half court, but isn't really finding his rhythm, and in some ways isn't getting opportunities that really worked for him last season. And because he is such a cerebral player, which Archie has talked about, he has talked about, sometimes your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness. And I think, to me, watching him and kind of matching that with the data and just things that you hear, he's probably overthinking it a little bit, maybe having a bit of a crisis of confidence. And I think we saw this last year as a freshman when he had that stretch starting with the Duke game where he didn't play more than 11 minutes for 9-10 games, even took a DNP against Notre Dame, but stepped away from things, came back with a fresh mindset, and it really clicked for him after Christmas. And so maybe that's what it will take again this year. Maybe he just needs some time to find his comfort zone. He's still just a sophomore. And maybe as fans, we need to be a little bit more patient with a sophomore who has always had clear physical dominance over his peers and is still kind of adjusting to how to play at the college level. And, like running back after you make a mistake and what it's going to take to finish. So it's like in the one and done era, we expect a guy who's a sophomore to be a finished product. And I think as much as he needs to work and get better and all of those things, maybe those of us who are cheering for him, analyzing him, need to be a little bit more patient and allow things to kind of take their natural course instead of expecting, demanding, and getting impatient when he's not the idealized version of the player that we want right off the bat.
I'd like to correct you real quick, Jerod. He's not a sophomore. He's a sophomore. Thank you. When you're talking
shout out to Chuck Crabb.
Yeah,
shout out to Chuck Crabb.
Basketball, you got to say it's sophomore. But no, what I would say about Justin is that, and I was going to say this, and Coach put it in the chat, is he's a guy who I think needs to focus on defense right now and build his offense through his defense. Focus in, lock in on defense, forget the offense, because Indiana's got enough guys who can score. You need Justin Smith, but not make it about hitting threes or whatever he's doing in the half court. But what you need to do if you're him is lock down on defense. Be that guy because he's athletic enough to be a lockdown guy. Start from that end, get some good feelings going from that end, then work on your offense and move it sort of from the defensive side forward, because I think that he can do that. Even forgetting the technical side of playing defense, he's so athletic, he can make up for mistakes just with the way he plays and with his natural gifts. So
he seems to be letting his offense affect his defense
and
a little bit.
I think that's absolutely true, 100%. And he needs to embrace it the other way around. Play good defense and let that lead to your confidence building offensively.
Andy?
Yeah, I think that certainly he seems like a guy, and whether this is the mental component that you talked about, where the Arkansas game, I believe he had a number of turnovers. I think it was either UT Arlington or UC Davis was another one. And then this game was the same way. It just seems like things kind of snowball for him and get away from him quickly. And so maybe that's doing that. I think the other thing to point out with him is if Archie really wants to play Juwan at the 5, coming into the season, you would have, and Justin Smith at the 4, you probably would have said, there's Justin Smith, there's Jerome Hunter, who you might be able to play in that like kind of small ball forward type scenario. And maybe there's Race Thompson you can do that with. Well, those guys haven't been available really over the entirety of the season for Jerome and most of the season for Race. And so I think when you look at Justin through that lens, if that's the way that Archie wants to play, he becomes that much more important for what IU wants to do, because he's a pretty unique, size combination with everything else that he has in his game. And at the very least, until Race Thompson can really get himself back into action, if they want to continue to play that way with that size lineup and that combination of guys, getting him back on track is really important. And I think they've got to figure out how to be able to build his confidence in games without, force feeding him and making it, kind of making it too obvious, to your point, that you're really trying to, kind of hammer things into him and making it simple for him to, just react and make plays. And as you guys said, maybe that's defensively, and that helps spur the transition game that he's so effective in.
Yeah, well, look, Indiana's going to need Justin Smith to continue to get better. I think we all need to be patient with him, and hopefully it starts on Saturday against Northwestern, because we all know there's a terrific player in there. We've seen it in spurts. Now the big idea for him obviously is to do that more consistently, and hopefully he will as he gets more mature and gets more comfortable with this particular set of players as well. All right, coming up with the November portion of the schedule, and now in the rear view and 23% of the season in the books, we take a look at our expectations. Has anything changed based on what we've learned this month? Stick with us here on the Assembly Call. All right. That was 17-12. That's a couple of long segments there to kick us off. We're at 33-11, so we've got less than 20 minutes for these two segments, which is fine.
What time do we get out?
Like
how many minutes?
52.
52.
Okay. Just one. Hangover's like 48, so I always get the two confused.
Okay. So this segment, we'll kind of hit expectations. Okay, I was going to talk about Valerie's comment, but we already hit that the last segment. Okay.
What expectations do you want to discuss?
Just expectations for the season. Like, basically, has anything that has happened changed our expectations?
No.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point to drive home.
Okay.
The one point I want to make, though, is when you look at the Big Ten, what could change your expectations a little bit is seeing what other Big Ten teams are doing. Because certainly it looks like there's a clear best team in the Big Ten right now, based on what we've seen. I don't necessarily think Indiana's on their level.
No, but you know what? It's funny because Beeline's teams are usually bad up front and really good on the back end. I feel like this team's not going to be good in March. I don't know why. I get this weird feeling that they're just not. They're going to run out of gas. I don't know why. Just watching them play, it almost feels unsustainable. I don't know why. It's because they don't really have the pieces you need to win in March, I don't think.
Yeah.
Just a feeling.
I've been surprised at them offensively, because I would agree. When you looked at the guys coming back, like, you could picture most of them being like really good defenders more than you like. Xavier Simpson just like is ripping people's hearts out and stomping on them in the center of the court.
No, and I think Beeline's a phenomenal coach. I mean, I don't think that's up for debate anymore, but there's just something about them that just feels unsustainable long term. I don't know what it is, and maybe if I see more of them, I'll change my opinion. But from what I've seen, it just feels like it's almost like everything is going perfectly, and I don't know how they'll deal when it's not, I guess, is my I'm not confident that they'll be like, oh no, we got to adjust and do this, but we'll see.
Well, I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right.
They've looked phenomenal so far. They've been, I quite frankly think, other than Gonzaga, that's the most impressive team in the country so far as what they've accomplished.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, here we go. Segment 3. Okay. Welcome back to the Assembly Call. I am Jerod Morris here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips. Remember that if you are a serious IU Hoops fan, you need to be subscribed to our free IU basketball email newsletter, especially now that the season has started and we're sending out our in-depth post-game analysis emails the morning after every game.
There's a high-level operation going on out there.
Joining is easy. Just text IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com. That's IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com.
Make no excuses.
Can we get some basketball, please?
All right, back to talking basketball. Gentlemen, we'll start the question portion of the show a little bit early because we got a good one, and I kind of want to talk about this anyway. But this question comes to us from Stacy. She asks, what are the realistic expectations for this team at this point? I'd be happy with just making the big dance at this point, although I don't think that's a given by any means. And, one of the themes that we're seeing in some of the commentary, coming out of this Duke game, I think, is a lot of people seeming to wildly change their opinions. And I actually think some of the things I said on the postgame show got mistaken. Like, there's some things that I was concerned about and have been concerned about in the last few games, but it hasn't drastically changed what I think that this team is capable of. And so I want to just kind of take your guys' temperature and see what you think. And Andy, we'll start with you. As you look at Indiana now, have your expectations changed? Or I guess, what were your expectations, and have they changed at all based on the first month?
I think expectations for me coming in were NCAA tournament, top 4, finish in the Big Ten. I think the first of those still feels reasonable. The Big Ten has performed really well in the non-conference so far. I tweeted out earlier today some numbers about that, and that, this is a, rising tide lifts all boats type scenario because the Big Ten has played so well. I mean, they have the most wins of a major conference team against top 50 KenPom teams and the most against top 75 teams. Haven't fared particularly well against top 25 teams, but, really outside of the ACC and the Big 12, no one has. So there's a lot of wins in that 26 to 50 range of KenPom that are really going to help the league as a whole. So that helps set the stage for all the teams are going to play over the course of the conference season, and basically would suggest that almost every game is going to be the chance to get a quality win, and very few losses are going to be viewed as bad losses. Now, obviously, volume of losses is one thing if you start to really rack those up, but I think what the Big Ten has done as a league so far has set the league up really well to get a number of teams in. So still feel pretty good about that. I do think you look around the league and at how some of the other teams have played and how IU has played recently, and you might question a little bit of, it's top 4. Is that really there? Could they be 5th or 6th? I think that's certainly possible. But I don't think all of a sudden, that the wheels are just going to fall off and this team's going to finish, 6-12 in the Big Ten and not make the tournament. But I do think the league as a whole, we talked about how balanced it was going to be in the middle. I think that's still true. But I think the level of those teams is probably a little bit higher than we thought going in, even though it's still going to be crowded in the, kind of 2 through, 8-ish range, I would say.
And Ryan, you've been pretty clear that you're not, again, judging the team until January, which I think we all kind of agreed was a smart thing in the offseason. So I assume
so many new pieces, that have to get worked in. And when you've got a star like Romeo Langford, it takes time for him to adjust to playing with the level of guys that he's playing with now, and maybe not taking as many, one-on-one opportunities as he usually does, and things like that. So yeah, I just think it's going to take time for that chemistry to develop, because I know there are some guys who returned from last year, but it's a lot of new pieces and new, even Justin Smith, he's not a new guy, but the level we're relying on him now is new, and it's different, and how he fits in with those other guys. But what I would say, as far as expectations go, I still expect this team to be in the fight for the top 4 in the Big Ten, and I expect a Sweet 16 once they settle in. Now, I don't think that right today, if the tournament started today, I don't think that's my expectation, but it's about once they settle in, once they're healthy, and once we see what all these guys can do. I mean, Race Thompson is somebody I expected a lot from this year, and he hasn't played because he's got a concussion. They need to get him up to speed, because I think he's an important piece. He makes it easier if Juwan Morgan gets into foul trouble. He makes it easier. Because he's a guy who can go down in the middle and take some punishment because of his size and his length, and also do some versatile things like step out on the floor and also play with his back to the basket. I mean, he's a guy who could do a lot of things for you, and a guy that I think a lot of people expected a lot of. You look at him as a freshman, but he's been on campus for a year. So he's a different level of freshman than the other guys because he's been in the system. He's been working out, and he might physically be ready for college basketball in the way the other guys weren't when they started playing. So that's a guy I really expected things from this year, and he's been out. And hopefully, we get him back soon because concussions are tricky, and you have to take your time. And I fully support them taking their time getting him back and not rushing him back because, as we know, with a concussion, you get one. And if you're not all the way rested, you can get another real quick, and then that's an even longer timeout. So hopefully he gets that figured out soon and can get back in because I think he's an important part of the team. But I don't think my expectations have changed. I think that this team matches up well with a lot of teams in the Big Ten, just the way they are size-wise, length-wise, versatility-wise. How they play in those situations is we haven't seen because we haven't seen this team be put to the test and play like that. If they played the way they did against Marquette, against a lot of, and I realize that was almost a perfect game, but if they play the way they're capable, that they've showed they're capable of, they can compete with anybody in the Big Ten. Will they beat anybody in the Big Ten? Beat everybody in the Big Ten? I don't know, but they can compete with those teams, and that's what you want as a fan. You just want your team to be in it competing because that means they're going to win more than they lose, and in those tight games. And the goal, as always in the Big Ten, has since for the last 2 decades has been win all your home games and win half your road games, and you'll be in a great spot. You do more than that, you do a little more than that, maybe you win you win the conference title. You do a little less than that, you might be on the bubble. But that's sort of the goal: is win all your home games, win half your road games, and if you lose a home game, you got to make it up with another road win. Balance it out that way. So that's what I'm looking for from this team is the classic Big Ten march to the top 4. And then, hopefully you come down the stretch late in the season, you're in the top 4 and you go on a roll and you win the conference. But certainly I think top 4 in Sweet 16 is still where my aim is.
Yeah. My expectation was always kind of like right in the middle between what I thought, was like the high ceiling for this team, which is like win the Big Ten, go to a Final Four, and maybe like the floor if there was a disaster. So to me, get back to the NCAA tournament, be in the running for the Big Ten, in that final week of February into March, top 4 or 5 finish. I haven't seen anything yet that takes me off of those. I guess maybe the only thing that's changed a little bit is, there are just some kind of specific concerns now that you couldn't really foresee at the beginning of the season. I didn't think we'd be as concerned about turnovers. I thought the free throws would be better. So there's a few of those things now that are concerns that I wasn't necessarily anticipating, but still open-minded to the fact that those things could improve. And also, one more point that I want to make here, and we just saw this in the chat. Jeff said expected more hustle and motivation this year than the last 2 years. Got it at first, but seems to be waning recently. And Ryan, I thought you had a great response. I think that's the result of guys being exhausted.
I mean, it was obvious in the UT Arlington game and the UC Davis game that those guys were dead. They were exhausted. So,
well, and I guess that's what I want to ask. And Andy, I want to get your thoughts on it first. Where is the line between explanations and excuses? Because we come on here as analysts, we're trying to explain what we're saying and analyze why, and then try to project forward. And there are explanations for why guys maybe can't go 100% at all times when they're playing 38 minutes, 39 minutes. Like, as fans, we can look at them and, want to see like max effort all the time. That's unrealistic if you're playing that many minutes. You got to pace yourself a little bit, especially early in the season. So, and I'm seeing too much of that where it's like, everybody's making excuses. Well, it's not really an excuse. Like, sometimes the context of a season and issues you face have an impact. And so I think it's important as we're watching these games to at least be realistic with what we expect and understand that you have to apply common sense to the context that's actually, dictating what's happening.
I'm sorry, Andy, I got to say something real quick. And like when somebody gives you reasoned analysis and you call it an excuse, it's because it's what you didn't want to hear. That's right. That's all you calling it an excuse is. Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
No, I think it's the hard part is, as you said, you're trying to put this into context. Well, the reality is, like, we don't have a lot of context for this team because the amount of time that it's been at full strength to know what the actual potential of the team has been about 3 minutes. It feels like. And so, you don't really have anything to benchmark it against. You don't have this team started, we had these 8 or 9 guys in the rotation. Here's how they've grown, or, or regressed or whatever you want. Like that hasn't happened. And that's not, within anyone's control really, in terms of the injuries, but like that's a reality of what's happened with this team. And so, you can certainly argue that the team that, really unraveled quickly, and you'd probably against Duke, and you'd probably like to see a different level of toughness in that scenario and really be able to stand up to it. I think that's a legitimate criticism of things like that. But some of the other games that led into that, when you're playing 3 to 4 guys, 35 to 40 minutes, at the pace that IU has been playing this year, which has been a little bit faster, I do think that's a lot to ask. And you can't go back and say, oh, hey, when we were at full strength, this happened. Like the team hasn't been at full strength. So you don't really, like I said, I just think that we've yet to really establish the baseline. I think that's why even the expectation question is a little bit hard to answer. You're answering it based on some of the same things that you thought before the season, because you haven't seen what you expected materialize at all, just in terms of personnel. And some of that may not happen at all during the season. And with Jerome Hunter, it sounds like that's one where you probably just need to reassess what's there. But with a guy like Race Thompson, there's no reason to believe that he won't be back. And we talk about, he's a guy that, they've said not afraid to mix it up. He's a guy that might be able to spell Justin Smith at times, might be able to spell Juwan. We have no idea. That might be completely wrong, but we haven't seen enough to know that that's wrong.
Yeah.
So it all makes it kind of difficult. And so whether you want to call it an explanation or excuse, like I don't really even know what the answer is to that, because we're trying to explain something using a reason that we might not have actually seen, but still what we believe. And I think that's where the injuries have kind of made it hard for everybody to really, wrap your mind around things, versus I think last year that was a little bit different. Yeah, there were a lot of unknowns, but it kind of became clear pretty early, like, this is not gonna come together as quickly, because you had enough data to use to figure that out early on. And I just think this year, if you look back, the number of minutes this team's played when everybody was really available, it's such a small number that it becomes really difficult to gauge.
Yep.
I felt like we had an amazing conversation on all levels.
Thank you, Coach. All right, coming up in our final segment, we are going to answer more of your questions, including our predictions for what Archie's first signature win as IU's coach will be, and if it will come this season, and however many others we can get to. That's next. Stick with us. All right, that was 12:28. So we are at 45-39. Andy?
6:20.
7:43.
10:41. 23.
It's not even funny, Jerod.
6:21.
I'm definitely not laughing.
It amuses me every time. 6:21. So carry the 4. 5:45. 5:45. But Ryan, just a splendid tweet that you put in our chat.
Oh
that's
my God.
That's just, it's just glorious. It's really good stuff.
And then, I mean, that's one of like many, like everybody's pointing that out. It's like, dude, you realize what you just admitted to? Like that you saw it. Okay. So basically let's get this out of the way. I don't want this on the radio show. So we'll do it on the, it'll be up for the podcast people, but Dan Dockich has tweeted out.
Big fan of the show. Don't forget
big
that.
fan of the big fan of the show.
He loves Crimson Call. Loves it.
Tweeted out after practice, and there, he's obviously watching the Last Days of Night documentary, which I could not care less about. But says after practice, I yelled at Knight in the coach's locker room and said, "What the WTF is wrong with you? You choked that kid." We yelled at each other for a minute. Then he asked me to go check things out in the locker room. So basically, he just admitted that not only did he know that Neil Reed got choked, he saw it and then did absolutely nothing about it and told nobody. And like, he is just getting roasted on Twitter for this. It's like, wait a minute. He's trying to tweet through. One guy put, when you try to tweet through it and accidentally admit being complicit and covering up abuse, which is what he did, because then he stood by while Indiana told other guys on the team to go talk to media outlets and say, no, that didn't happen, or I didn't see it, and whatever, which they knew they were lying, but they were, I think it was AJ Guyton and another guy said, well, we were captains and we did what we were told, and they lied openly. So yeah, nice of Dan Dockich to admit that to Twitter tonight that he knew and saw what happened and did absolutely nothing about it.
Well, after all the Jeff Brom stuff, maybe he should just stay off Twitter.
I mean, after the Steve Alford stuff, I thought he would stay off Twitter. It's a done deal. It took me one call to prove that wrong. One call in 5 minutes to prove that wrong, by the way.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Michael Lewis was the other captain. Sorry. Somebody mentioned that in the chat. Yes, he was the other captain that they dragged out and had lie.
Someone said, can the chat mob pool some money together to pay Dockage to predict that we won't make it to the NCAA tournament this year so we can ensure that we absolutely will?
Won't finish in the top 4 of the Big Ten. Won't go to the tournament.
Oh, man.
Won't ever win a national title under Archie Miller. You know, all those things.
I tried so hard to build a bridge and extend olive branches to him.
It's not worth it.
Oh, my God. It is so not worth it. I'm done with it. I am done with it. He is.
I remember the one time you emailed him about the first time he brought us up, and you emailed him and you wrote him a really nice email. And he on the air, he was like, I don't want to read this. I have no, like, he was like, nope, done.
There have been a lot of emails. When I've come up to Indianapolis, I've been like, hey, I'd love to take you out to lunch just so we can actually, meet face to face. Nothing. But he'll call me out for, an email that last time asking him to clarify a point that he made instead of, well, he's got.
No, he didn't call you. He called the Crimson Call out, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Crimson Call.
Crimson Call. Those guys, those guys do suck, quite frankly. It's, he's got
Crimson Call.
Crimson Call. That podcast. Nobody's even ever heard of it. It sucks.
No. Okay, well, we've wasted enough time on that pointless subject.
Yep.
There's plenty. He's got plenty of other tweets out there if anybody wants to go.
Oh, and they're not.
Follow along.
They're just as fun as that.
Do we need a moment to look at the schedule to answer this question? I did not do any prep for this.
Andy's got to memorize. What
is this?
Yeah.
What is the
we always turn to Andy for these questions.
Yeah, I'm just going to.
And I should probably be prepared for it then. That seems like a good idea.
Ryan, you want to tell us a story?
Someone who has also not looked at the questions, I will also look at it.
This is when Ryan regales us with.
Is it always the third break?
Hey, by the way, do you ever listen to the podcast The Art of Manliness?
No.
I don't listen to it a lot, but I do subscribe because every now and then there's a good episode. And there's a recent one, and actually it made me think of you. It's about storytelling and like how to tell a better story, because you're a really good storyteller. That's why, people like listening to your stories, and you're the star of AC After Dark and all that. But actually, I thought
according to one poll, that only he remembers the star of the show.
What was the name of that app we used for like a summer?
Cover It Live.
No, it wasn't that. We used like an app that was on the phone that you could watch on your phone, and then it started with a B or something, and we used it like 5 times, and you're like,
Blab.
Yes,
Blab.
Blab. You could put little polls in there, and you put a poll in there in the middle of a show that said, who is your favorite on the show? Trust me, this is one of the greatest moments of my life. I remember it. And it's like I got like 65% of the vote. I was being particularly like myself that day. And so
there isn't one part of the story that doesn't reveal everything that you really need to know about Ryan.
Pretty much. It was so fantastic.
I was being particularly myself that day.
Yeah, well, that's why people liked it. I mean, they like it when I'm extra Ryan.
Anyway, you should check this out. It's actually... It gives like some really good tips about how to tell better stories. And as someone who you clearly like telling stories, so I think you would actually appreciate this. But I thought about you because you're one of the better storytellers that I know.
Well, send me the link. Coach just said Ryan is the cover boy for Art of Manliness. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
No, he said, is Ryan the cover boy? That was not a declarative statement.
Never mind. No.
Yeah.
Somebody says that like.
Well, maybe he can put a poll up, and then Ryan will capture the results and treasure them forever. Yeah. If you ever want Ryan to remember something, put it within a poll that Ryan is winning, and he will remember.
The chat right now is hilarious. It's like Ryan's really grown on me. Jeff Bell's like a mole. Ouch! Ouch!
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah.
I know, Jonathan, I'm hoping that I got that I was being particularly myself that day clean.
Oh,
that's the problem. Like sometimes there's like one of us will say something perfect, but it's not clean, so it won't really work well as a drop.
Yeah, you guys just let me talk, and you'd have plenty.
That's what we do. That's why we stand back.
All right, so are we? What are
we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing?
We're good. We can.
You're good, Andy.
Yeah, we can come up with something here. Yeah, signature win. We'll look.
And maybe what we should do is define what it'll mean for him to have a signature win. Like what would the signature win be? Anyway, we'll hit this up. Okay. How much time did I say we have? We need to be out of here at
5:45. I think it's
5:45. 5:45. Okay. Here we go. You're listening to the Assembly Call. We are wrapping up another week of talking IU basketball. I am Jerod Morse here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips, and we've got a short final segment, so let's get right to it. This is where we answer your questions. The first one comes to us from Mark. Mark says, IU got close last year but couldn't get a marquee win. Says, not sure I count Notre Dame. Will IU and Archie get a signature win this season against a top 10 team or the eventual winner of the conference? So Mark kind of defined for us there what a marquee win will be. Andy, what do you think? Will Indiana get? Because I guess you look at opportunities against top 10 teams. Right now, Indiana only projects to get 2 of those, which is the home and away games against Michigan. And they look like the odds-on favorite to be the eventual winner of the conference. So maybe we start there. Do we think Indiana beats Michigan at home or away this year?
After watching what they did to North Carolina last night, I'm not sure this is the great timing to answer that question.
Let's wait a couple weeks on that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll maybe let the memory of that fog into our minds a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Michigan game at home late January is a potential for that. I think the road game for Purdue a couple weeks before. I don't necessarily see any of the other non-conference games really falling into that. Louisville and Butler to me would both be kind of Notre Dame-ish from last year, which he had disqualified. So I'll go with that. So, maybe if you think road wins, kind of at Purdue from a rivalry standpoint would be a big one. Certainly Michigan at home, maybe Michigan State at home when we're there. I think in any event, his first win over Purdue is going to be special. I don't know that I would necessarily call it a signature win. So I guess I would say the Michigan or Michigan State home games seem to be maybe the most likely to fall in that category. Although I hope he doesn't wait until the Michigan State game, even though we would be there and that would be fantastic. I hope, we were able to have some conversations over the course of the season that, maybe circle back to this question and ask like, hey, was this win that happened over the course of this week, does it fall into this category?
Yeah. I would say, I think that the first big opportunity we're going to get is at home against Michigan on January 25th. I think that's sort of the one we've all got to kind of circle on the calendar. I think the road at Michigan, it's tough to win there. Tom Crean had a couple teams go in and win there. It's possible. It's not the Kohl Center for Indiana. It's not that house of horrors, but at the same time, home at Michigan, I mean, that's just not a game you mark at the beginning of the year, regardless of how good you are, is like, okay, yeah, they're going to win that one. That's going to be a struggle. And plus I feel like signature wins have to come at home for some reason. I feel like you need the crowd there and you need the atmosphere. Not always, but I feel like it's almost better if they come at home. So everybody's there, everybody's watching it. You get the atmosphere, you get the crowd, and you take advantage of that. And
yeah, but at some point in your program, you got to prove you can win on the road. I mean, it took Tom Crean a long time to win on the road, and that was big when he did.
When you point back at big wins, it's typically big home wins. I'm not saying that you don't need to win on the road. That's great. You need to beat big programs on the road, but I'm saying like when you look back at the moments where it's like, okay, that's where things turned around, or that's where things took a jump forward, it tends to be a home game.
Man, I don't know about that, because like in 2012, we talk about the NC State game, and that was kind of a signature win. We talk about
signature win. Come on, I
mean, that is a meaningful win that showed an important step in the program. So maybe we have different definitions for what we're talking about.
The signature win was Kentucky at home, though.
Okay, that was okay, but a signature win is beating Michigan State at Michigan State, which we hadn't done since '93 when Victor Oladipo made all those plays late. So what I'm saying is, I think you can have signature wins on the road as much as you can at home.
I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that it tends to, like, the ones you will look for, to me, tend to be those big assembly hall crowds, that blow up and you win, you win a home game. To me, that's where the turning point games are. They come at home typically.
I think the first ones, as you look back, probably come at home because it's potentially easier to get them there. But I do think when I look back at least over the time that we've been doing the show, the memorable ones, the win at Michigan where they won the Big Ten title, the
at
Iowa, because that is how you're a champion.
Thank you. I didn't even have to go to the drop, Andy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just doing your work for you. It's fine. Yeah, maybe, and potentially even this year, maybe actually beating Wisconsin to prove to anyone, under the age of 10 that it can actually be done would be.
But we're not playing at Wisconsin this year, so
well, I know, but that would fall into Ryan's home territory. So
that's true.
No, I'm not saying those big wins can't come on the road. I'm just saying that they tend to when
that's exactly what you said.
All right.
Yeah, no, they do, and I think, but Andy brought it together as he usually does. They usually come early at home, but then the next step in your progression as a program is you got to prove that you can win on the road.
Completely,
and right now, I guess you would say, the Notre Dame and the Marquette games are the biggest wins for Archie, and those, you look at stepping stones; those are both nice wins. Now we need to see what comes next. Okay, real quick. This is from Joel. Ryan, when was the last time you saw an IU team have fun on the court? I've watched dozens of other games this year. Other teams seem to have fun on the court, whereas this team seems to be forgetting this is a game. I would say the first 5 minutes of Marquette, they looked like they were having a hell of a lot of fun.
I thought the whole game against Marquette, they were having fun. Yeah, and you look at the games, I thought they were having fun against Montana State, Chicago State for the most part. Yeah, but they've had a struggle since because guys have been hurt. So I think this team can have fun, and they look like they're having fun when they're playing right.
All righty, well, that will do it for us on this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat
mobbers,
join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording. And you can always subscribe to our podcast by searching for Assembly Call wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Thank you for listening. We will be back to talk with you again on Saturday after IU Northwestern. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
And he really does this time.
Yes, I have to get out of here. But sometimes you are just walking into a bear's mouth. Yeah. I think it's fair. You ever seen the salmon? Just jump right into the bear's mouth.
Not walking.
Andy's always a stickler for the details, man.
Hey.
Always a stickler.
Right.
Oh shoot, I need to text Jen the link real quick.
Okay.
Or wait. Jen, try and open up that link that I emailed you. If not, maybe I'll have to send you another one.
Oh, Ryan's gone. I'm like that.
Ryan is gone.
Yeah, I was dating a girl who was not happy because she didn't hear from me for most of days. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, nothing."
What was the context of that?
I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. I just like how he says the phrasing is so awkward because he says what I was doing for most of days.
Yeah, I was dating a girl who was not happy because she didn't hear from me for most of days. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, nothing."
It's just wonderful. Okay, so Jen, I'm going to email you this link again. Oh man. Did you see I had some coughing fits?
Yeah, right at the beginning.
First segment. Holy smokes. Immediately. I did too. No. Oh, there she is. Okay, so she's got the link. All right. Let's do this. Hey, there she is. Wait, let me unmute you.
Oh.
All right. There you are.
What I said.
How's it going?
Hi.
Hey, there she is.
I had a hard time finding.
Let me unmute you.
Okay.
So I think you may need to turn your audio down on your computer.
How's it going?
I need to turn it down.
Yeah, because I think it's picking up on here.
So I think you may need to turn your audio down on your computer.
Gotcha. Hold on just a second. I need to turn it
Okay.
down.
Yeah, because I think
it's like when you get on the radio and they tell you that you have to turn your radio down, or
Okay, hold on
or you
just a
can hear.
second. Let me
I think it's better now.
Yeah, it seems better. Yeah, you can't hear the.
Okay, sorry, I still had the thing up. Now I can't see you anymore. Is that normal?
Oh, you can't see us anymore?
No, it just says your meeting is starting.
Oh, well, that's strange.
Hold on just a second. Let me just.
It might open up like another window somewhere else that's not open.
Yeah. If you have a little zoom icon in the bottom right-hand corner, just try clicking on it, and it should bring the window back up to the front.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well, or you pop out and get back in, which also. Oh, there we go. Oh no, it's okay. We didn't even do a test. Okay, so let me unmute you. I don't have the button to unmute. Here, hold on.
How about?
There we go. You're back.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
How's it going?
It's going. I'm exhausted. We have been on the road, like college tours and basketball games, and
You guys are just all over the place.
we are all over the place.
Where were the tours to?
Oh my goodness. So we've run the gamut through SMU and like up in your neighborhood and Baylor and OU and my son. I'm not a good IU parent. I'm not raising good kids because he just took a UNC tour when we were at Duke. So
hey, that is okay.
It was painful.
No, I know you gotta let the kids make their own decisions.
I guess.
My wife and I are trying not to push the IU and the Texas A&M on too much. Although I don't know, as she gets older, we're buying more clothes for her, and it's it's a little harder to do. But
I thought we indoctrinated early, but apparently not. So
well, that's okay. So you were at the game on?
I was. I
Tuesday.
apologize for the loss. I do blame that squarely on those candy stripe socks from the Alumni Association. They are 0-3.
Oh no!
So I will not be wearing them again. They lost us the Duke game last year. They lost us the Arkansas game, and now they lost us Duke this year.
So those socks need a signature win. Maybe you bust them out for the Jacksonville game. Let them get some winning,
Get some confidence.
some winning energy, and then they'll be ready. They're just a little out of sync like the rest of the team. It's okay.
Yeah.
So what'd you think? What'd you think seeing it live?
The
Duke game.
It was crazy atmosphere in there. I mean, it was. Assembly Hall is fantastic. This was fantastic, but just in a different way, just from a fan's perspective. They are so close to the players. Like they are right on top of them. They're students. Yeah. And so it was, I don't know. And I was a history major, so all these old buildings, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the Duke fans, they were pretty nice, but I suppose they could be. There are a lot of IU fans there.
Yeah. That's what I heard. I heard that there were a lot of IU fans there. That's good. So thank you for all your support over the years. You are, you're one of those people that is always there whenever we ask for support or need help with anything. You're there. You've always got kind words to say, and just like so many of the other people that are in the chat mob, just your presence, your consistent presence. For people who produce as much content as we do, and do the post game shows after every game, to know that there are people like you that are there loyally with us through it is awesome. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate you guys. I mean, here I am down in Texas. You're in a little football island.
Yes.
So this really, this becomes the community. So I really appreciate you guys and all the work that you do, and the chat mob and the Twitter people. I don't know. It's just been fun. It's been really, really nice to talk about basketball as somebody who knows what a basketball is.
Yeah. You don't get as many of those down here in Texas, that's for sure.
Not so much.
So what is your history as an IU fan?
Well, I did grow up in Indiana, so I've got like the typical like Indiana grandma. I'm sure you all have that, like where Purdue was the cuss word. You didn't say that. Don't talk about Gene Katie in front of her. Channel 4, you had to turn the antenna rotator to make sure you could get that channel in. And
if anybody has met Megan's mom, Libby, she is the quintessential.
So that's a real thing. Like those old ladies. I know.
Oh yes.
I'm working my way there. Not quite there yet. So, but I went to Indiana and I was there. I admit I was so spoiled. I did not know I was spoiled, but my first season was Calvert Janey's senior year. That was when I was a freshman. And I just thought, that was going to always be Indiana basketball. So
yeah, anybody who went to school back then, you just kind of thought the winning will just, so much winning. It'll never stop.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, it's funny. You never know that you're there for the end of an era while it's happening,
I don't know. Man. I can remember seeing Chris Webber like falling to the ground, when they lost in there. I also remember, getting dunked on by Big Dog, and I don't know.
Oh yeah.
But Greg Graham, goodness gracious! I pulled up some footage on him, recently because I think it was his birthday. And I didn't remember how athletic he was. I mean, he was crazy. So
he was.
I enjoyed him, but I didn't know. I didn't know that was the end of it. The end of for a while. Anyway.
What is your? So you just gave us some memories. Are any of those your favorite IU memory, or what's your favorite Indiana basketball memory?
Well, my favorite Indiana basketball memory is my first date with my husband was Midnight Madness. So I have to go with that one. That is awesome right there. Yeah. So because that was Bobby night. So you went at midnight for a basketball practice. And I know coach is probably in there like, woohoo, basketball practice, but it was an exciting date.
Practice.
Anyway.
Practice.
So, yeah.
Practice.
And then we followed it up with Denny's right there on like 46, like up on the hill on 46 and Walnut.
Yeah.
So that was big spending back in the day. So.
Yeah.
Those Bob Night Midnight Madnesses were just something else. Like you would stay all that time, you get there early, and then it was not anything. It was like if you take what happens today anywhere and then think of what the exact opposite of that is, like that's exactly what it was for anybody who never has been to one of those, like a legit practice. The crowd would get hushed when he would start yelling at somebody so that they could try to hear like what he was saying. And then without fail, as soon as he got done yelling at somebody, everybody would start cheering and just go like nuts. Like, yeah, just ream this kid out. That'll show him. It was crazy. But yeah, that was exactly what it was like. And it was so kind of like you were excited for it and it was exciting to see the players, but then the actual like experience was like, holy shit, I'm here. It's 12:30. And this is There were certainly no laser light shows or pandering to recruits at those events back then.
No, but I remember,
you may have actively kept recruits away. Actually, I'm not
sure. So, I remember, I was in 7th grade, I think, when we won the title, and I can remember cheering with my family, but I don't know. And then, we moved here, I don't know, early 2000s. There was no internet yet, barely an internet. There was no BTN. So there's a huge chunk of time where there was barely any, IU basketball for me. So I kind of picked it back up with Tom Crean when things really kind of,
So what was that like? Because I had a short kind of IU dark period after I graduated and when I moved to Miami, because I just didn't get much back then, down there. And obviously the team wasn't particularly exciting from, 05, 06, 07. I mean, granted, I missed Ryan's favorite moment ever, the Marco Killingsworth. Although I did watch that game on TV. But, I didn't totally check out, but I was a little further removed. How'd you kind of deal with that? I mean, were you just like totally like unaware of what was going on or?
Well, I also had twins right about that time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So you were totally unaware of a lot of things.
Yeah. There's a big dark period of lack of sleep.
Basketball, current events, whatever. It didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, it's a real shame Ryan isn't here right now because he would be more than willing to offer you advice on how you should have raised those twins from all of his vast experience.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, we got to see the national championship, in 2002 or whatever, but it was just, they had to be on like a national platform. So BTN, like, to me has been wonderful, to keep up with everything.
So what kind of brought you back into it and why now are you so passionate about it? Like, what does it mean to you? What does it provide to you, especially being so far away to be that into it?
I'm trying to remember. I just, that year right before, I guess Jordan Hall's would have been junior year, like, and they really kind of started getting good again. And
2012.
Yeah, like right in there, and it just national attention and just everything, and we just kind of became a focus, I think, a little bit more. But that was a fun time. And then I really, honestly, I think that I wasn't a big, that Facebook, but Twitter has been like a miraculous thing to open up like the IU community. And I don't make any bones about it. Like I feel bad for other people who follow me, but I'm like, that's the only reason I have Twitter is, keep in touch with IU basketball. So.
Your Twitter is Hoosier 40?
Hoosier Gen 96.
Hoosier Gen 96. Okay. Yeah. So everybody follow Hoosier Gen 96.
Yeah. So if you want to know how old I am, you can just start counting back there. So I was in the 70s there. So, I know I gave you and Galen a hard time because you guys, I don't think we're alive in the 70s. So, yeah.
It is amazing though how, the internet has changed being a fan and being far away. I mean, that's part of the reason why we started the show is, we were all far away, and it's like, I'm sitting in my apartment alone. I want to talk with someone about this game. I have thoughts. I have feelings. I need to bounce these off of, bounce this off of people. And between Twitter and, podcasts and BTN and all the different ways, there's so many ways to actually feel connected to, to this community that is really special to be a part of, but can be hard when you're that far away. So it is a really cool thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's hilarious how often, the chat's fun, but a lot of times I have to listen to you guys. I'll be in the car. You drive anywhere in Houston and the traffic is about an hour, which is, so I listen to you guys on podcasts a lot. And it's pretty funny to just, be having these conversations. It's actually really strange because my husband's not social media at all because he's on the computer all the time. And he'll say something and then Andy will say, like, it's really creepy. So he said to say hi to Andy tonight. And I don't know.
Oh.
Sorry, Jerod.
So no, that's okay. So in the poll, in the favorite poll, he would have voted for Andy, not Ryan.
Voted for Andy. But
Okay.
it's kind of, I don't know if it's like exciting or kind of creepy. It's like sometimes like the thought is like almost word for word. And I'm like, so
Hey, great minds think alike.
That's awesome. Oh, that is awesome. Well, this is so great to be able to talk to you. When are you going back up to Bloomington again?
Well, I was just there in July, and my parents are in Indy, but we've got some things going on here, so it's probably going to be summer again before I get back up there.
When was the last home game that you went to?
We went to Duke last year.
Ah.
That was the last one that I went to. So Duke both years, and then we went to the Arkansas game as well. So, yeah, I just bring the losses, clearly.
Well,
I'm really sorry, everybody. It's not for lack of hearing.
Now you're due, though. You can't. You're too dedicated of a fan. You can't keep going to games and not be rewarded. So the next one, pick a good one, because I think the next one they'll do well. Is there anything else? Like, just as a fan, is there anything else that we could provide or we could do that, coverage of the team that you'd like to see? Any way that we could improve the show?
You guys added that Monday, and that's been a lot of fun. Like Ben, for as rough as it is, for him talking about North Carolina or whatever. Actually, it's probably his fault that my son wanted to go to North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'll blame Ben because he's not here to defend himself. But I don't know. I love it. I appreciate how accessible you guys are, and the chat's so fun. And I don't know.
Well, thank you.
You guys do a great job. You do.
Thank you.
So. I want to know if Andy spends all of his time at Kings Island.
No, I'm not.
Nobody here knows what Kings Island is. I'm like,
no, I'm not a roller coaster person. So, nor is my wife really. So, no, we do not really.
So no Kings Island. All right.
My daughter usually likes it when my brother-in-law and his family come because they're more apt to go and they like take her for her birthday or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So she still gets there, but but not with us.
Given that information, your ability to withstand the Crean era is even more impressive now.
Nice. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's where I developed such an aversion.
By the way, I have this drop that I haven't been able to work in, but it cracks me up every time I listen to it.
Let's talk about where we can get those Tom Crean George versus all y'all shirts. George versus all y'all. George versus all y'all. That's gonna have to. You're really gonna have to shoehorn that one in. There's really no natural point at which that becomes usable. But I'm sure you'll find a way.
There really isn't. Someday we will.
Maybe if you get home field to put something like that, you could shoehorn it into an ad.
They just randomly put a Georgia versus all y'all shirt up.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's on brand for them, but it's maybe the only logical way to.
Like two huge wins, I suppose. That one at Michigan, and then the Watt shot. I heard both of those in my car. Like, I actually had to pull over, for the last 3 seconds of Kentucky or whatever. My daughter, I remember she was there and she was having a heart attack because I was screaming. I would have pulled the car over. But
yeah,
the Michigan one, we were on vacation in Arizona. I don't know how we found the show on the radio. And we went down by 5. My husband gave up. He went in to check us into the hotel. And the next thing you know, 55 seconds later or whatever, we won that game. So maybe I just need to watch, or listen. No more candy stripe socks.
Just listen to Fish.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong listening to Fish.
Cannot go wrong listening to Fish. There have been many. You're talking about a certain former IU basketball player that is not a fan of the show, but he mutes really nicely, and you can just connect fish right
yes, there. Yes, he does. He does mute very nicely. That's the hard part. The thing about that is like just all the stuff with him has made it hard for me to actually listen to him call a game. And he's actually good at that. Like, he actually provides insight there, but I just don't like listening to his voice anymore. But anyway,
No.
what are your thoughts on the team so far and your expectations and your, like how, because I know you were excited coming into the season. Are you still feeling that same excitement? Has it been overtaken by any concern? Where are you at?
I think that I was a little concerned that people had too high of expectations for this particular team, and Romeo, and and maybe it's because I was there when Damon Bailey was there, and you just cannot reach the expectations that people set for you. Like nothing that he did could ever have reached the expectations people had for him. So I just I figured that they would have some freshman moments, and they did. Like, gosh, Robert Fennessy has been the most impressive thing to me. I just think he's been great, but he had a rough game at Duke. Man, like at one point, you can just see he's a freshman, right? He fell down. What did they do? Somebody stole the ball from him, and he laid there on the floor and he slammed his hands down. And I remember thinking, yeah, he's going to regret that someday, because he didn't go down, even finish the play. And I thought, that's this team though. They're still finding themselves, and we're asking a lot of these guys. But I think they're gonna be better. And I think, we've got to remember it's the beginning of the season, and I'm excited about them. I guess maybe it's because my kids are kind of that age now that I cease to think of them as, just random basketball players. And maybe again, Twitter and all of these things, they've become more real people. So I think, gosh, I would sure hate for somebody to, I appreciate what you were saying about Justin Smith earlier. I would sure hate for someone to be picking apart one of my kids, like they do these guys, like they aren't really people. So
fans are so critical of athletes.
Yes, they are, Coach.
They are, Coach. No, it does kind of change the perspective of it a little bit. I've always been appreciative of the perspective I was able to get, growing up with my dad being a coach and kind of seeing that side of it. And we were able to, kind of develop a relationship with Yogi's mom and kind of get her insight on it and see, how she kind of, handled all of that. It gives you another perspective too. And, especially when you don't go to games and you just watch on TV, it's so easy to fall in the trap of thinking that they're like characters in a show that you watch instead of like real actual people, So it's just, I have to remind myself of it too, but some of the stuff just gets so out of hand. It's so unnecessary.
Probably not surprising. The one guy you said whose comment was despicable had something about the Cowboys in his Twitter handle. So as an Eagles fan, that's pretty,
Yeah, well,
because Eagles fans are really the, bastion of morality.
Yeah. Yeah.
No comment there.
Who do you root for? Who's your NFL team, Jen?
Well, it used to be it's the Colts. I haven't watched a lot of NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, And I was there when the Colts were formed. I was here when the Texans were formed. So it's kind of hard when they play each other. I'm rooting for the Colts, but any other times, somewhere between those two. It's never Dallas. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's also never
good. I like you even more.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes. Coach just said in the chat he tunes in just to hear himself on the drops. You're always here with us, Coach, even when you're not on the show.
Believe me.
We'll get some good ones from you for this segment, Jen.
Okay.
It's a side benefit of these conversations that I didn't anticipate when we started having them. But
no, I do always hear chat mobbers in Megan's voice though.
Chat mobbers.
It's pretty funny. Yeah,
oh man.
Anyway, but
I can't wait till the first person turns you down to come on here because of the.
Yeah, look, I'll come on, but you can't record it.
Oh yeah. Jerod, these are real people too, just like the players. What's wrong?
It's good. Okay, I did try this week as I was going through to like pick out drops of myself because I want to be fair with it, but it's just weird. Like I don't know which ones to do. What we really need to do is we need to have a producer who's not one of us who can kind of be here playing those. It'll go a lot better. Because I say tons of ridiculous things that need to be brought back and shoved in my face. It's not just Ryan.
Let's get your wife to do it. Let's get Heather to do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
She'd be up for that.
All right. She's sitting right over here. She
See?
could probably do that.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm sure she'd love to.
yeah.
I'm sure she'd love to dig through stuff to
Right
throw
on
back in your face.
She's glaring at me, not sure what we're talking about here. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome. It'd be great one time if our schedules align when you're going up to Bloomington and we're up there in Bloomington, or the next time you're in Dallas. Is there a shot at SMU happening?
I hope he goes to college. You know what I mean? Like she's got it all picked out. I think he's going. So we'll see. I have no idea. He's waiting on A&M. Heather will be happy about that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, she will.
A&M, and he's also waiting on UT. So I don't know. I just don't know.
You said your daughter has decided? Is that what you said a minute ago?
I think she's going to OU. I'm just going to whisper that. I think she's Oklahoma. Actually, Oklahoma reminded me a lot of Indiana, just like in a smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's reminiscent. They're, the colors are similar. So
yeah, cream and crimson. So we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
She broke my heart because she got into Indiana. I mean, Kelly Business School. I don't know, but it's far, and I have somehow raised Southerners. I mean, she doesn't want to know what's wrong with her.
Well, you've been down here for a while. Yeah. So
I don't know. So
definitely not all it's cracked up to be. We've got some on the ground here now. So
anyway.
Yeah. Well, Jen, thank you for coming on. This is awesome, and thank you again for just being such an awesome IU fan and such an awesome audience member. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing because everybody really appreciates it. So
absolutely, we love doing it. So it's either fun to celebrate or win, or necessary to have a cathartic conversation afterwards.
Yeah, I prefer the victorious episode.
Yeah. So do I.
As do we.
Yeah.
Yes, as do we. We need to have more of those moving forward.
Yeah. It wasn't the end of the cream thing there. It was like another disappointed episode.
Oh,
it was bad. It was rough.
Yeah, well, we don't need to.
New era. It's Archie era. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wins make everything feel good.
Yes, they do.
Hey, I actually met Galen and Chronic when I was at Duke.
You did?
Yes, I did.
That is awesome.
Sometimes you forget that you don't actually know people because we see you guys and all the time. And I just walked up to Galen. I'm like, hey, and he's like, actually, he's like the nicest guy like ever. So
he is.
Yeah, it was really neat to see them.
That's cool. Those two guys are awesome.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall during that road trip between those two.
Oh my gosh, yeah, those two. Yeah,
oh my.
No, that was a lot of fun to get to meet them on the sidewalk outside of Cameron Indoor Stadium, just walking along. I'm like, I know that voice.
That's awesome.
Anyway, yeah,
that is cool. So now that Chronic Hoosier is actually Tom Crean. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's
the secret's out.
There's your sound drop right there. I promised him I wouldn't tell.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's great. Cool. Well, thanks again. Thanks for coming on. We will see you in the chat mob in the future and hopefully in Bloomington at a game sometime.
Yeah. Sounds good, guys. Thanks. Have a good night.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jen.
Bye, chat mobbers.
Good night, everybody. We will. I won't be here. We're going down to visit my wife's family this weekend, so Andy will be on the call for Saturday. I might like pop on with my phone if I get a chance to watch the game, but
okay.
I wouldn't plan on it. But I'll send you run sheet and everything you need.
Yeah, I probably need the passwords for stuff again now that I got a different computer that I think they were saved on other things, but I'm not sure I will have them on here. So
I'll put them on that document.
Would be good to have. But yeah, we'll do that. Or as I called this before, your boycott of the December Big Ten games starts on Saturday. So
yeah, it does. I know because I probably have to miss Tuesday. It's my wife's birthday, and even beyond that, I think she has to work late that day. So I don't. So yeah. So
hey,
but I'll be back ready to go after that.
Somebody has to take a stand against these December games.
That's right.
You're just a man for the job.
I'm taking a stand.
All right.
So anyway, Coach, by the way, if you're free for Saturday, I don't know if you are. You might have a game, but
it's in the afternoon. It's like a 1 o'clock tip, right?
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock for Ryan. So if we still had bingo cards and you had one that said something about Ryan complaining about early tip times, that would be a surefire winner.
Do I look like I just woke up? Because I did. Tired and surly.
All right.
Stop stalking high schoolers, Jerod.
Just a treasure trove of information. All right.
It really is. Okay, we got to go.
All right, I'll talk to you.
See you, man. See you, everybody.